And joining us now for more is Mayor Javan Danfar, a lecturer on Iran at Reichman University, and he's speaking to us from Tel Aviv. And Mayor, the talks are going to be resumed, it seems, November 29th. But given what we just heard, it seems in some way that the sides are even further apart than when they started or when they broke off in June. So at this point, is there even a point to resuming these talks?
Well, there's a point in resuming the talks, Calev, but both sides it seems that they are speaking almost from a completely different perspective as to what these talks are going to be about. On the one side, you have the Americans saying that they want to continue where the talks were left off. On the other side, the Iranians saying that America should remove all the sanctions first, and America should get rid of its supposedly unreasonable demands. So, but both sides are talking past each other. So it depends. If you're an optimist, yes, it's a good thing that they're going to talk. But if you're a realist, which is basically an optimist with experience, there's not a lot to go on. But neither side can be seen to be rejecting the diplomatic approach, even though it seems that the chances are not very good, even though it seems that they can't even agree on exactly where they're going to start negotiating. On the Iranian side, they can't seem to be dismissing these negotiations because the Iranian public is suffering under the crushing weight of the sanctions and mismanagement. And on the other side, President Biden, this is what was one of his promises, that he's going to solve issues through negotiations. He's not going to carry on the way Trump did. So he needs to show his home base that he's giving negotiations a try.
Right. Now, given what's happening in Iran, the economic situation that you've just described, how much of the Iranian posture, for example, now demanding that sanctions be lifted, should be seen as a negotiating tactic that could be dropped, or really a kind of make or break position that Tehran has staked out now?
Well, I think the Iranians are quite happy, Calev, for these talks to even continue for as long as possible. But it's important to try to decipher how the Iranian leadership sees the United States. There are various different interpretations. One of them says that the Iranian leadership sees the current Biden administration as having a weaker hand than Trump. Why? Because the way it seems that some of the Iranian hardliners see America, to America, China is the priority. President Biden does not have the time or the energy to confront Iran. So they seem to believe their perception is that Iran has the upper hand. So, on the one hand, Biden's focusing on China. On the other hand, Biden, especially after Afghanistan, cannot afford a confrontation with anybody. And also, Biden does not want to take on Iran's proxies in the region, which Iran sees as a source of strength and leverage, especially in places such as Iraq, where they could be brought upon or called upon by the Iranians to pressure America. So for now, those in charge of Iran, and they don't necessarily have the best interests of the people of Iran at heart, seem to believe that they're based on these beliefs and perceptions. This is they believe that they're acting from the position of strength.
Right. Now, you see neither side can, at this point, doesn't want to give up on diplomacy, doesn't want to be seen as giving up on it. But, that is the position here in Israel. That is the position, certainly among some of the nations in the Gulf, that given the activities in Iran, the advancement of its enrichment program, and some of the activities in the region, that is the tactic that should be taken. The U.S. should simply, at this stage, pull out of the talks and maybe even reinforce sanctions. How do you answer those points?
Well, let's look at it from this point of view, Calev. President Trump, who acted like the toughest person against Iran, he was almost begging the Iranians to come and talk to him, because he did not want to sacrifice U.S. lives in another war. This is the same person who imposed the toughest sanctions on Iran. Afterwards, he was seen as almost begging the Iranians to come and talk to him because his voters did not want to, he didn't want to confront his voters with another war. So now then you have Biden, who tries to be the anti-Trump, and President Biden certainly does not want to be confronting his voters and his voting base with another war. So they're not going to do it. This does not serve the interests of the Biden administration, especially for domestic political purposes for the time being. But this could change maybe a year or two from now on, depending on what's happening on American domestic politics, but what's happening with the Iranian nuclear position. But right now, at the time frame we're in and the political context that Biden is operating from, it does not serve the interest of the Biden administration to go down the Israeli path of saying, look, negotiations are not serving our interests.